get started. We are good. Oops. All right. Good evening. Today is Wednesday, July 16th, 2025 at 6 p.m. We are in the Brecksville-Broadview Heights Education Center, 6638 Mill Road, Brecksville, Ohio. This meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. Public participation is governed by Board Bylaw 0169.1, public participation at board meetings. This meeting will be live streamed via YouTube and will also be recorded for later viewing. Please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel where all recordings are posted. Item 1B, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 1C, roll call.
Mrs. Gaelic?
Yes.
Mrs. Kramer?
Yes.
Mrs. Wykowski?
Yes.
Ms. O'Mara?
Yes.
Mr. Dosen?
Yes. Moving on to item 2A, President's announcements. I have none. Go on to item 2B, notice of consent agenda. Do any board members wish to remove any items from the consent agenda? Okay, we will move on to item 3, Board 3A, Board Areas Responsibility, Legislative OSBA Liaison. Ellen?
I'm going to defer. I'm going to let Craig and Jeff describe what's going on at the state legislature on Monday relating to public school funding. So we'll talk about that a little bit later in the meeting.
Okay. Cuyahoga Valley Career Center. Ava?
I have nothing to report.
Okay. Curriculum. Tish?
Well, I have a lot to report. I know it's the summer, but the curriculum department is very busy getting ready for the school year. They continue to monitor state testing data, still considered preliminary. It will be released in September. We continue to remain confident that BBHCSD will get a 5-star rating again this year coming up. Again, that's going preliminarily, but we will have a lot more to report in September. I'm sure Dr. Martin will be sharing all that stuff with the community for sure in September. This I'm going to read verbatim because I think it's interesting and important for the community to know. Our high school AP scores were reported July 7th. And once again, we had improvement in those scores with the students that took AP exams. Our overall improvement saw an increase in the number of students taking AP tests. We had 538 students take them, or 530 AP tests taken, an increase in the number of AP students with a score of 3 or greater, and 3 is considered passing. They are given credit that can go to college with them. And an increase in the percent of AP students, that was 83% of that got a 3 or greater. The mean score of all the APA tests taken also increased from 24 to 25 in 18 of the AP tested subjects. So that's good news. Shows that our students that are taking very rigorous courses are continuing to improve with those as well. 100% of our certificated staff have completed the Science of Reading legal mandate. As of June 13th. So a big shout out goes to our staff members for completing that. It's not an easy road while you're teaching and trying to complete all of that training. Similar shout out to certificated staff members who've met throughout the summer in teams and are attending workshops and conferences and personalizing their professional learning, getting ready for next school year. So for everyone that says, oh, teachers, they get the summers off. They're working. They're trying to get ready for the next school year to hit the ground running, providing the best instruction for our students. You're going to hear more about this, but there have been significant complications, delays with federal funding, if you haven't already heard. the USDOE has withheld some funds. We are continuing to focus on meeting the needs of all our students, and we are hoping that federal funding will be allocated to BBHCSD as it was supposed to be, but is currently being withheld. So keep your fingers crossed. And then our Senate Bill 29 update. This is the bill where we have to report with any of the educational tech that we use in the district. We have to be able to show the privacy agreements that we hold with all of those companies. And we are continuing to work on that. By August 1st, we should be able to have the applications up and be able to communicate that to the community that we have those privacy agreements with any type of educational tech we are implementing with our students. And then as always, our deliveries have already begun to come in to the curriculum department, and they're inventorying the materials and getting them to teachers' classrooms for day one for kids, for the teaching students. That is all I have. Thank you to Dr. Martin for all the help in organizing that information.
Okay, great. Thank you. Moving on to finance, myself and Tish will be approving later today the firm that's going to be doing our audit. I think it's at a 5-year run. So they'll be locked in for the organization to do our audits. And then when does the audit start? The audit start in the fall?
They're going to be here in a couple weeks
Oh,
to
okay.
get started on both GAAP as well as the financial audit.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Transportation, myself, all's quiet. Board policy, Lisa and Ellen.
Nothing. I'm sure things are coming though, right?
Yeah.
Very good assumption.
BBH Schools Foundation, Tish.
Really, the school's foundation is in the thick of grant applications, and they are going to be meeting here soon to review them and determine what grants will be funded for next year. So the more to come at the beginning of the school year.
Safety, Ava and Lisa.
No meetings have been scheduled at this point. Do we know when the next safety meeting would be?
I don't have it off the top of my head, but it should be in the fall. So,
Usually is the
yep,
beginning of
I'll get you that
September.
date.
Okay. After everybody settles down a little bit.
Mhm.
Okay. Sustainability, Ava and Ellen.
I don't have
Nothing.
any-
We're recycling and saving, and sorting.
Okay. ESO, Lisa.
Nope, I don't have any updates. Summer, so PSO's probably taking vacations.
Co-curricular, extracurricular, Tish and Lisa.
I don't have anything this month.
It's the calm before the storm,
Correct.
starting here in the next week or so.
Permanent improvement facilities, myself and Ellen. Later in the agenda, we're going to be approving a contract to install a new boiler. I think that's PI thing going on this month. Okay, we're going to move on to item 4, superintendent's communications. I'm going to turn it over to Jeff.
Couple just tidbits to some of the items that Tish talked about. Our teachers are participating in personalized professional development this summer. It was part of the strategic plan and where they are logging hours that will go towards the 2 days of Monday, Tuesday of Thanksgiving week. That if they put in those hours, those 2 days, they would not have to report. So they have designed the professional development. It's high caliber, and it's just exciting to see. It's on my calendar when the sessions. I see when the sessions are happening and who is attending. And it just speaks to the professionalism of our staff on the work that they're putting in, not only designing the professional development, but then attending and participating in it. So it's very, very exciting. The AP results, we shouldn't glaze over those because at the high level which our students and staff achieve on AP tests, it's hard to continue to make those gains that they make. And I know Mr. Jacob and his team at the high school makes it a priority and would like every student to take either an EP course or a CCP course, no matter what their course is after high school, just for the rigor and the discipline it takes to succeed. And many of our students not only take one, but take 3, 4, 5 AP and or CCP courses. So congratulations to those students as well as those staff members. And then the federal funding that Tish had spoke about, it's holding about $79,000 from Brecksville Broadview Heights that we had planned on, hoped for. And a lot of that would be going towards teacher professional development as well as instruction of EL students. So that's where that money is going. Our amount is nowhere near the amount of other districts, you know, because we are heavily locally funded. But $79,000 goes a long way and goes for some important things and some important professional development for staff members that we had planned on, and have things arranged and lined up that if those funds do not come through, we're going to have to figure something out, because that professional learning needs to happen for us to continue to achieve the level we do, as well as prepare our staff and students to be successful. So just a couple of tidbits there. So I put together a little bit, a couple board members said, hey, let's talk about House Bill 96 and maybe the impact, maybe not so much about the funding aspect, even though the funding aspect will definitely weave within many of this, but what else is in this budget bill, as they refer to it as, that really has nothing to do with budget. And I'm going to try to keep some of my commentary to myself. My opinion, I'll try to keep it under my hat a little bit, but you know, there have been some positive things that have happened, but just because it's positive doesn't mean it's great, is what I would say. I liken it to if gas is at $5 a gallon and it lowers to $4.50, everybody's excited about going $4.50 a gallon, but it's still $4.50 a gallon. So it's some with this process will be likewise. We've been talking about this since February. If you think back, February 11th is when we started talking about this and the governor's version was released. Then in April, the House version came about, June, the Senate, then June 25th, the conference committee, where basically they hashed it out between the House and the Senate versions, come out with what they can compromise on, and then it goes back to the governor for him to sign. Well, he line item vetoed a couple of items that I'll go into detail here shortly, and then signed off. So since he line item vetoed, he made some of the representatives, both in the House and Senate, not very happy. So now they've already called and have already scheduled the House session, which is going to be on July 21st. And then the Senate has already scheduled as well to be the following day on July 22nd. But for the House and Senate to be able to override the governor's veto, it needs to be 3/5. So that equates to 60 members of the House of Representatives out of 99. And then 20 Senate members out of a total of 33. So you would need both of those to be 3/5 to be able to overturn, or what they refer to as override, the governor's veto. So some timing of this, the appropriations from the budget bill went into effect on June 30th. Most other provisions are September 29th, because it's usually 90 days from when the governor signs. However, since he has line item vetoed, and if they override, anything that they override, it'd be 90 days from the date that they override. So that kind of resets that clock. So it would be further into possibly, I didn't do the calculations, October, I believe. So when we look at some of the items that are in the budget bill, and we talk about governance and board structure, number one thing that I put on here was partisan school board elections. Part of the budget bill said that as a school board member, when you run, you would have to signify Republican or Democrat, your political party affiliation. The governor did veto this, so it is not currently in the budget bill. And by all signals that we're getting by our different lobbyists and things, this is not something that the House and Senate are going to try to override. So we hope this is not going to make it into that. Hopefully it's done and over. Also, part of the budget bill is they changed the makeup of the State Board of Education. It used to be 19 members. And if you remember, the State Board of Education and the powers it has been drastically decreased over the past couple of years. But it has gone from 19 members to 5. And you'll see on here that of those 5 members has to have representation from rural, suburban, urban, community, and a non-public school, just to be able to have that representation of 5, all appointed individuals, by the way, not elected.
If I could add one thing about the partisan school board elections that was interesting, I did not know prior to this whole situation, which was that, and what a lot of people probably don't know, is that when you have a partisan election, it really restricts people who can run for a public office like this. So I think it's important for the community to know why that was so important to veto out, because your civil service jobs, your federal jobs. So people that are policemen, firemen, people that work at the VA would not be even allowed to run for a school board in the event that this was not vetoed. So in general, we're very happy that they did that and kept it nonpartisan.
Yes. So the fiscal oversight and property tax provisions, which Craig could add much more color to this, but I'll just quickly go over it. Two items that are vetoed in this is the 40% carryover cap that we've talked about at great length. And last reported, we were in the 47 to 49% in our district in our levy cycle, as I would explain it. But there are districts in the state of Ohio that are much higher than that and upwards of 100%. Not many, but there was going to be a cap put in that if you were over the 40%, that some of that money that was voted by your community, given by your community, could be or would need to be given back to the taxpayers. And the county budget commission and authority would be involved in that. They would be the one making that determination and making the determination of are going to give the property tax individuals relief. I'm sure all of us that own property understand we pay property taxes, and I'm sure most people don't want to pay more in property taxes. I don't discount that at all. I don't discount the burden that it does put upon some community members. I don't want that to be lost in this. However, the state of Ohio has chosen to fund public schools through property taxes. So if these items would not have been vetoed, or if they are overridden and go into effect, it's going to have a drastic effect to school districts, some more than others. And all it does is it gives short-term relief to our community members or our taxpayers, because what's going to happen is we will have to return to the ballot more often than historically we have in the past. Historically in this district, to my knowledge, is 10 years or more typically. We're going to our community. We go when we need it. We don't go before we need it. But at the same time, when we ask, we try to stretch that out as long as we can in what we refer to as a levy cycle. And where we sit currently is we're kind of at the peak of that levy cycle and beginning that deficit spending. And I always quick when Craig mentions deficit spending, I always tell people that doesn't mean we're doing something wrong. It just means we're on the tail end of a levy cycle. And at the beginning end of the levy cycle, you're collecting more than you need. Okay, but that's so that you can continue out. You're not going to your tax base every 2 or 3 years, where then you have voter fatigue, or you just have an opportunity where, oh, here's a tax I actually get to vote on if I pay or not. And those who aren't connected or see the value or may be in different situations have a chance to vote no, they may vote no. So it would be a short-term fix, not a long-term solution. And that's kind of what the governor has kind of indicated by putting a commission together and asking for real measures to be developed by September 30th. There's also a couple interesting things that are in the budget bill that there's a whole lot of gray to it, and we don't have a whole lot of understanding completely. And one of them is administrative spending cap. Districts restricted from spending more than 15% of the operating budget on administrative expenses. I guess I first would start and say, well, what's administrative expenses and what's included in there? And what does that mean? Some people may just say, oh, you can't spend more than 15% of your budget on your administrators. Oh, there's more to administrative expenses than your administrators. Forecasting changes, and this is obviously in Craig's world has changed, going from 5-year forecast to 3-year forecast, and the timeline throughout the school year is a little bit different. And because of where we are in the year already, obviously year one of it's going to be a little bit different, and I won't go much deeper unless Craig wants to speak to that a little bit.
I'm good.
Okay. Other items that were line item vetoed, the elimination of key levy types. This bill was going to eliminate fixed sum emergency levies, substitute emergency levies, combined property income tax levies, removing critical funding tools from district's financial toolkit. Here we have all continuing levies, but other districts have emergency levies, also known as fixed sum levies. There's other tools that you can use to raise funds to support your school district. So in the budget bill, those were to be eliminated, along with what is counted in the 20 mil floor. And again, the governor at this point, his line item vetoed both of those items. These items have drastic changes for some school districts. I mean, all school districts, but some are harmed much more than others. Some other things that we find interesting, for some reason in the budget bill, they were going to say that we didn't need local control to make a determination if a school district will pay STRS or SERS pickup. because they put in the budget bill that we would be prohibited from superintendents, treasurers, and then at the last minute, they added principals to this with new contracts. The governor has line item vetoed this. He believes it is a local decision. Some school districts do it, some districts don't. Our district does not. One isn't better than the other. It just comes down to what some people would feel as being transparent or understanding compensation and benefits. So many school districts do pick up STRS and SERS. Some even pick up a small portion for the teaching staff. So if this was to be approved and not vetoed, superintendents, treasurers, and principals, not assistant principals, not directors, not other things, not teachers, those individuals would still be able to have pickup if their district chooses to do it. We're not sure where this came from. Not sure if it was maybe poking somebody in the eye. Who knows? But right now it's vetoed. Something is not being talked about that I think is going to make major waves are these next two bullets. One says superintendent must assign and reassign staff in students' best interest. In this district, we have what is known as the right of assignment. Not every district has that. I came from a district where, as a building principal, when I had an opening in a certain grade level, it was predetermined who was going to get it, and I had no say at all as a building principal or superintendent. That was something that was negotiated. It was in a collective bargaining agreement. Here at Brexville-Broadview Heights, we don't have that. We have a management right of assignment, and we use that when we need to. This changes for all school districts in the state of Ohio. Once the current CBA expires and they go into negotiations, that will no longer be, you will not be allowed to place teachers strictly on seniority or being the primary factor. So that's going to be a fight. That's going to be a lot of conversation and debate during negotiations for some school districts. Some items from training and policy, the science of reading is going to be required every 5 years. All certified educators, DEWs, and be responsible for keeping that training up and active and making sure we're all doing it. We're going to have an AI policy by July 1st of 2026. We currently have an AI policy. And it also stated in there, DEW does not need to come up with a model policy. They're leaving it to the districts. Number 3, which is one that's been talked about a lot, cell phone use policy. Requires policy by January 1st of 2026, prohibiting the use of cellular telephones by students during the instructional day. What is considered the instructional day is the first question. Except for student learning. So, okay. Or to monitor or address health concerns. And also there's another piece I didn't put in here, during emergency situations. So they can have them with them, but they can't use them. I am in conversation with many surrounding school superintendents that we believe the policy that we have on the books currently meets the requirement for this. K-8, we have no cell phones, not allowed. High school, there are certain areas of the building that and certain times of the day that they are able to be accessed and used. So this is one that we'll have continued conversation with Neola as we get into our policy update in the fall. Make sure that our current policy meets this or if we need to modify it all. The last one is another popular one we talked about over the past year, just like cell phones, religious release time for instruction or religious, I think I said that wrong. Anyway, so here we put a policy in place. We had always had a policy in place. And if you remember, this is one where it went from shall to may. Or may to shall. We were required to have a policy. We were required to allow students to have release time for religious education. And we already had a policy that did that. We made a few slight changes to it of when it could happen, how long it could happen, and how many times in a given year. Well, I guess some of the legislators didn't like some of the policies that were being instituted. So now we are required to permit students to attend at least one period per week. But it also limits participation to no more than 2 periods per week for elementary school, which I don't know what periods are in elementary school and middle school, and the equivalent of no more than 2 units of high school credit per week. That's the wording from the budget bill, and I'm not sure what that's telling us.
That's in the budget.
Yes. Yes. Many of the superintendents in the area, including myself, believe that some of this is very poorly worded. And we're not sure what that means. First of all, you don't have periods at elementary school. And then second, equivalent of no more than 2 units of high school credit per week. It's just periods. So it'd be periods in high school and middle school. So there's some to be sorted there. However, what I would say is our policy isn't as restrictive as some of this was probably going after. We did limit the number of times and what courses they could miss to have that. We currently don't have any of this going on in our district. And I think that's because many of our families believe and value what we do during the school day. And they feel as though that during the school day, there's standards we have to teach and their students need to be in attendance for. And I also think it comes down to our relationship with our faith community. And I spend on a monthly basis during our Healthy Communities meetings, time with some of our faith leaders in town. I meet with some of our faith leaders from time to time. And I think there's a high level of respect for what we do as a school district, as well as what we provide for our students. So we will again have to take a look at our policy and make sure that it falls within what's being given to us. But yes, many of these things, Ellen, are in the budget bill. Operational changes affecting districts. I think the first one here really where it comes into play for us. The second one, not so much. First one is construction bidding is expanded. Up to this point, and our district has taken advantage of this. If it was attached to a school building, we had to go through the whole competitive bidding process. If it wasn't attached to a school building, then we had a little bit more latitude on how that bidding process would work. So what does this do, or how does this hamper us? I'm not going to say it hampers us. It just is going to make the timeline a little bit longer when we do have some of these projects that aren't attached to a school building. As in the past, we were able to streamline that a little bit more. The other one, which is territory transfers, I don't see us being in a situation where this is going to happen, but they did make some changes and made it a little bit easier for territory transfers, meaning a school district to assume another school district. So they made it made the process much easier. Dr. Martin's favorite area, the curriculum and student support. K-3 diagnosis assessments, the DW approved a 5-year aligned reading and math tools implemented by September 30th of 2026. But also part of this is they removed the requirement the DEW to pay for it. So it'll be interesting to see who's going to have to pay for these assessments. I have a pretty good feeling who that's going to be. Middle school CT requirement eliminates the waiver option, which this district, as well as many districts, have used that waiver option in the past. We will have to have CT offerings at our middle school, which that isn't that far out of grasp for us, but it is something we will need to do starting in fiscal year 27, which is school year 26-27. High dosage tutoring. This has been a conversation between Dr. Martin and I since I arrived and it went in. They made a change. They opened it up a little bit. They're now permitting that high dosage tutoring to happen during core instruction time, offering flexibility for intervention, where before it had to be outside of the core instruction time. Absent intervention reform. There isn't a ton of change on this one. However, it's taking it from the court dockets just back onto the district. We had to have absence intervention when students were classified as habitual or excessively truant, and it required an intervention plan. It required work with the county courts. This is just bringing it all in the house, and it's going to be in the district. So less of them will show up on the court dockets. You saw the news, I think today or yesterday, there was a mother, I believe in Columbus, who's going to be serving 9 months in jail because of the amount of school her children missed last school year. So that was part of the absence intervention plans from last year. Another thing that could be up for a lot of debate is online learning schools. The budget bill is permitting school districts to employ teachers and non-teaching employees or to contract with a profit or nonprofit entity to operate an online learning school. So this is just making the process of having your own online learning school a lot easier and quicker. And there are obviously, as last month, we approved a contract that we partner with someone to provide online learning for students who are in certain situations. This is, we can have our own online learning school if we so choose, and we can hire teachers or non-teaching employees, or we could contract it out. I think that would then be a major conversation with the union. And in some school districts, that's probably what it's aiming to do. Some career and college readiness things, the $5,000 merit scholarships, the top 5% of the class is still in place. But what's interesting is it's guaranteed public university admission for the top 10% of students. So think of all the high schools across the state of Ohio. The top 10% in each one of those schools has guaranteed admittance into a public university. What's very interesting is the next one, main campus admission. So many schools, students will apply to go to Ohio State and they end up at Newark, or they end up at Mansfield or a satellite branch. If you're in the top 5% of your graduating class, you will get main campus admission guaranteed. So sounds great on the surface, looks great, but as a former high school principal and a student gets an A- or a B+ and falling in that, you know, and if we have 300 graduates, that's 15 kids of the top 5%. All right, so now all of a sudden we're counting GPA points, and am I in that top 5%? Do I get the guaranteed admittance onto main campus? Our kids do quite well in college admittance here in Brexville Broadview Heights. However, if every high school in the state of Ohio's top 5% get admittance on the main campus, that's going to be less spots for other students. So it may cause some difficulty moving forward. So these are just things that are tucked away in the budget bill that aren't catching headlines, but operationally for a school district or a building can cause major headaches. Another item, up to 8 hours excused for private driver's education. So students could get up to 8 hours of excused absence to attend driver's ed from a private provider. And then college level examination program. These are exams that can now count towards readiness indicators. They're offered by the College Board. They're not AP tests, but they measure the student's ability in certain subjects. I think there's 30 some tests, and it could equate to college credit or even college readiness indicators for graduation. Special education, it expanded the scholarship access for autism and John Peterson, clarified now covering students ages 3 and 4. And then a couple transportation changes, which really don't affect us a ton. Mass transit restrictions, just talking about prohibited student transfer to central hubs and high population counties. The next one, and I'll ask, a multifunction activity bus. Does anybody know what a multifunction activity bus is? It's a bus that is not used for student pickup and drop off. So it means it doesn't have the stop sign that pops out or the arm in the front that stops students from crossing. Typically, they're smaller in size. They don't have to be yellow. They could be white. They could be branded, whatever. Just a smaller bus that could be used for extracurricular, special trips, things of that nature. Anything outside of pickup and drop off.
So our vans don't count on this. It has to be a bus.
Yeah, the multi-activity buses are actually buses. They're the mini buses that could take more than 15. I think, you know, it talks about it's easier to get in urban areas to park and everything else. Gives you some flexibility.
We don't. Oh,
We do not.
I was gonna
We have
say,
buses,
so
or we have buses and we have vans currently. And then a transportation work group will be put together for the school year 25-26. So I share all of this. It's not every detail. It's some of the things that we're either paying very, very close attention to or we are concerned about. The last item is just a call of action. As we said, the House of Representatives are meeting on July 21st to begin the process of trying to override some of the governor's line item vetoes. There's the 3 major ones that we believe that they're going after. These are our local representatives at the House as well as the Senate. You know, Phil Robinson has been very active with our school district. I've met with him many a times. Mike Davila has been as well. You know, we have had probably 2 or 3 meetings with him with the local superintendents that he represents. Jerry Serino and then Thomas Patton are our senators. But further down is some of the leadership of the House of Representatives. And it's the speaker, assistant speaker, the whips and things that these are the individuals that if anyone is so inclined to call or email or stress the importance of some of the items that the governor did veto that will benefit public education, these would be the individuals that we should be focusing on as far as communication. So with that, I just open it up for any comments or questions or anything that I could clarify or definitely that Craig could clarify on the financial side of it. It's just, I've been in education 25 years. I've been a superintendent for 5, and I've never seen a time where we have so much writing on this budget bill. It's alarming at what this could do to public education. And, you know, we just have to make sure that we continue to strive to have local control over our school district, which is the guys, as well as, you notice I didn't mention one thing about ed choice or vouchers in this, but we can all go back to the $1 billion to $1.5 billion that'll be going out the door in the coming years to Ed Choice vouchers and the impact and harm that is having on the public school system. So I'll leave it at that.
Could you give us an idea of the impact that what is it, $7 billion that's being withheld at the federal level?
Yeah.
What I was reading is that a lot of this will be impacting the special education area. And so how would that affect our district?
Well, since they're here, Craig's sitting right here and Dr. Martin's sitting right over there, our coordinator of federal grants. Would you like to speak to that at all, Dr. Martin? Or Craig as well? I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, they've given allocations for IDEA and they've given allocations for Title I funding. What they have said from the feds down to the state level, and we got another email today, if you read that nice email, is that it's Title II, which is all the professional development. We usually get about $70,000 in that grant. Title III has two components, you have your English language learners and immigrant, which the total of those two small grants is about $20,000 that we normally get. And then we have Title IV that's also included, which for us is probably about $22,000, $25,000 a year.
If you don't mind coming to the mic, Dr. Martin, and talk about some of the real world applications that we're talking about right now. You just said pre-SAT.
Yeah, so Title IV, you can use it for well-rounded education, STEM, PBIS, things like that. We use it exclusively for pre-ACT and pre-SAT. So it's $22,000. I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but that's something we budget for, we plan for, we write our goals and action steps around, and we're going to have to scramble and figure something out. The communication Craig is referring to today is and I get it, the DO is trying to help us out. They said on the reallocation, we can take funds from what has already been allocated in Title I. So we normally put a lot of our Title I funding into salary and benefits. We want to get kids in front of teachers, our reading intervention teachers. Well, they're now suggesting that we remove some of that funding and use it for Title IV. Title II is a big one, like Jeff was saying, professional learning for teachers. We set a goal and we wrote action steps. It's in our strategic plan. It's in our one plan. We took almost a dozen teachers to TESOL last year. We got notification last week that Scott Kinkoff and our Yale teachers were awarded as presenters to this year's TESOL. Now they might go for free, but we planned on doubling that because I want to get all of that good EL strategies and methodologies and pedagogy into the hearts, minds, and souls of our general education teachers. So I was banking on that for these, and again, we didn't just come up with this. We've written these goals. This is like a year in the making. So we're trying to figure out. I didn't like the solution today of, stealing from one fund to put, to pay for another, because ultimately it's gonna hurt us one way or the other. So I don't know. I'm confident that possibly funds will be allocated. I don't know, something.
But we find ourselves in a situation right now, with our school counselors, for example, the high school, have a national conference, I believe, in Columbus that we had planned on, budgeted for using Title II funds, that now we're sitting like, well, can we send them? Yeah,
so they haven't been able to go to a national conference because it's, all over the country. We have the national conference, school counselors conference in Columbus. We have an opportunity. We can send them down there, spend a few $100s in miles, and they really want to go. They were like emotional about wanting to go. We all got them on board. So we're going to.
The downside too is that they're not giving any indication that you'd be able to expenditure adjust the money later. So that's where people are like, you're pushing pause, but then you have that point of no return, right? You have to figure out when you have to either go or not go, or what you're doing and how the money's being allocated. Because it's not like you can spend it out of the general fund and then, let's say we get the money in October or November, just move it.
Right.
Like, we do that stuff all the time, but it's all based on these dates that the federal government gives. So in total, including IDEA and Title, the district does get about $1.2 million in total. Now, and I say that they've given the allocations, we still don't know. Those are not considered final allocations. So while they've given us sort of what we normally get in those so far, it doesn't mean we're going to get that at all either. So we could still see funding slashed at for how they're getting that money from the federal government as well. So it's very concerning. It's very alarming. I've opened a case with Bernie Marino's office because something has to be done. They've obviously filed a lawsuit this week. There's 20 different states that have filed a lawsuit against the administration to try to get those funds unfrozen because it's already been appropriated by Congress. And that is the important part, is that there's basically withholding funds for no reason.
You've also heard me talk about the writing revolution. This is a K-12 initiative to systematize our writing process. It's heavy on professional learning, so we've got to train teachers and administrators, but it's because it's all about strategy and pedagogy and methodology, and it's light on materials. So I was banking on Title II for that. Now it's not a lot, like, you know, a few $1,000s. You've all approved all of these wide-eyed, idealistic new teachers. I got to get them trained because they've never used Ready Classroom Math or CKLA before. But to get a trainer in, it's at least $3,200 a day. There's virtual options, but I still got to pull them from the classroom. So it's just complicated. I don't have a lot in Title II, III, IV, but give me tens of thousands of dollars and I will make it. I'll stretch it and we'll get meaningful learning for teachers. So, you want me to stay up for all night?
No, you're good down here, Martin. That's what I get for turning it over to him, right?
I got the microphone.
I'm gonna get a remote to turn that thing off. Thank you, though.
I heard you say, you know, a couple times, you know, it's not a lot. Here's the thing. It is, even if it's just, when we say it's just $20,000, it's just $1,200. It's just this, every penny matters in a school district. And it doesn't matter which school district you're in, whether you're urban, whether you're rural, whether you're suburban, it matters, right? Because you just told us what that money was earmarked for, how it was going to improve teaching, how it would impact learning. And the fact that they're withholding it for no reason. And even, you know, it's what, over 100,000 for us that he's talking about with Title II for. That's real money to anybody, to any district. It's a huge deal.
Because we've budgeted,
And-
we've planned, we're like in the starting blocks, ready to go. And then now we're in the position of looking at our professionals, our teachers going, I don't know, because we have budgeted. We use our funds wisely.
So it goes back to, you know, funding that is being changed so rapidly that it's not a phase in where you can
Mhm.
plan for it. You've already, you know, everything that you had planned for, it's just upended. It's leaving a lot of districts
To
in
your
chaos.
point, we found out what, like June 28th or something when they said this.
You're gonna bring that week of our lives up.
I mean, we like
it was
out
just
of the
madness.
blue, the state had loaded allocations for us in all of these grants and then sent out a retraction and then pulled all of the funding out. That's how abrupt this was. So it really emphasizes your point of how it's changed.
And I think that's the point, Mark, that you're making there, is I think that's what is so shocking to those of us that have done this for some time. We're not immune to change and having to adjust. We just have never had to do it at the pace that we've had to do it here in the past couple of months.
Right. So the other question I had was, is it too soon to assess all of these changes, what the financial impact is to our district? I know a lot of them don't have a financial component, but some of them do, you know.
Are you talking about just the grant funding or are you talking about all of
No,
it?
I'm talking about all of the changes in the budget bill.
Yeah, and even some of them that don't look like they're a financial strain to the district, they are.
Yeah.
The cell phone one alone, depending on how far the interpretation goes, the time and resources that'll be spent telling high school students that they can't use their cell phone, that they're allowed to have on them in case of an emergency situation, is just.
Let's remember, you have to keep your administrative costs at less than 15%.
Less than 15% as well. So, yeah, it's just, it's wild at the moment. And I think what's frustrating, and this is, I'm coming strictly from a Brexville-Bellevue Heights seat at the moment, that all of public education is getting painted with a broad stroke. Many of these things in this budget bill are targeted at certain situations that We're like, why? That's not an issue for us. We don't have 100% carryover in our budget from one year to the next because we do it. I'll say it. We do it the right way, but every district's different. Now, I'm not speaking for other districts, but we believe the way we've done it, and we've been financially conservative and have not asked, or we used our COVID dollars or our ESSER funds in the way that they were supposed to be used when they were supposed to be used. We didn't use it to stretch levy cycles that then gave us a bloated carryover, as some districts did. Now, they may have done it for different reasons. It's their decisions to make. It's their local control. So.
And it goes back to, how they have approached this budgeting process where they have put so much legislative stuff inside the budget bill. I mean, it's supposed to be a budget bill, right? I mean, some of these changes traditionally would have been gone through committees and discussions with like a school bill or, be more focused. Instead, they just dumped everything into this bill.
I left a couple things off the presentation that I'll just mention that I find interesting. It's in a budget bill. Athletic eligibility. There is a piece in this budget bill for ice hockey that if you live in a district that your school district doesn't offer ice hockey and it's within 20 miles of another district that offers ice hockey, that if the superintendents agree, you could come play ice hockey for us, even though you're not in our district. And it's to ice hockey.
Right.
It's that specific. So it's like, what legislator's grandson wasn't able to play ice hockey, for another school? So there's that. Oh, and then the other one too is financial literacy is a graduation requirement. But in this budget bill, you can be excused from that requirement if you take a financial literacy course from a bank or credit union. I didn't know banks and credit unions were doing financial literacy courses. Right. So they must have a strong lobbying group.
Sure.
Yeah. So, but those are the type of things that are finding their way into the budget bill.
Sure. Yep.
I just wanted to thank Craig for reaching out to Senator Marino. Like, we should probably be doing the same. And then that was a great presentation, Jeff, because that's a lot. So thank you for doing that. And I did want to add, and I had mentioned this to Jeff, I was at Phil Robinson's town hall on Monday, and according to Phil, he thinks these veto override votes are going to be very close. So it would really behoove us to reach out to especially the leadership in the House and the leadership in the Senate. He said it's probably going to be a bipartisan vote. So if people have time before July 21st, call the powers that be in the Ohio Senate and the Ohio House.
Can you, I know you mentioned them, can you specifically call out the 3 items that they're thinking of overriding and talk, I know you and I talked about this, Craig, like how they would impact us.
Yeah, so the only one that potentially could have impacted us of this would have been the 40% carryover balance, right? So we don't have that current balance. So I guess we're leaving it where it is, right? So that would have technically impacted us without the transfers that we did. What is the other one? The county commission. This is, I don't mean to make it slight with Cuyahoga County. The Cuyahoga County, as you know, is a large county, very population dense county with a lot of schools. And so it is harmful legislation. So I was just at OASBO today, and they are going to file a lawsuit if that gets overrode. Not necessarily OASBO, but there are legal firms that are going to challenge that because the county budget commissions are not a state agency and they cannot write rules. And so they're giving them a power that they do not have, that they should not have. So there are some counties that are already trying to do what they're doing. And I think that there's some thought that the county budget commissions are going to do the state's bidding to reduce the 40%. So that they may just as a county say, oh, you're at 40%. So we're going to just reduce your effective millage. And I don't know if they'll do that. Do I think Cuyahoga County will do it? No, I do not. But there are some very conservative rural districts that are going to do that, and that some of them are already doing it. It's happening in Geauga County. Mm-hmm. The treasurer and their staff is going in front of a budget commission like a firing squad, and they are being grilled with questions and all of this stuff. And at the end of the day, it's still local control. The levies are voted on by the community members and whatnot. And so taking that and saying that you just have too much money is not appropriate. So I don't think that'll affect us in Cuyahoga County, but it will affect schools around the state. What is the third one?
The different types of levies
The
or
different
the
types of
20 mil
levies.
floor.
I mean, could that affect us? Yeah, but our district is traditionally now doing the current expense. There were emergency levies that were converted. Were you a part of that when that happened, when you did the conversion of all those emergency
Yeah.
levies?
Yeah, well, they weren't emergency. They were.
Fixed sum.
They were term. They were
Yeah,
term levies that
Yeah.
got converted into continuous.
Yeah, so I think the plan would, for at least us and maybe this board, would be that any other future levies would be the same. So what some schools have done is as they've reached the floor, they've done, or they have emergency levies and then they hit the floor. So we're not necessarily affected by that. And then the 20 mil floor part of that is that those levies would count in the 20 mil floor, and right now they don't. If you recall what I talked about earlier over the past year is that we're not at the floor. We're currently sitting at about 27 effective mills after the reappraisal we just had. So we were at like 34, and then after this most recent appraisal, we dropped it down to 27 is what our effective millage is. So we are getting closer to the floor, but that legislation would not affect us because we don't have any other levies that would be included in our 20 mil floor calculation. But it could, if we decided to do an emergency levy, then that would affect us.
Brexville-Bobby Heights sits in a position where many of those items, they don't hit us at the moment. But I was on the phone with the superintendent from Brunswick, who's in the middle of a brand new high school build and other things, and every single one of those hits them. And it's a $19 million swing. So he went down and testified, when they were having the hearings, and his opening line was, when Jason Niedermeyer's here presenting, we're all in trouble. So, yeah, but there are districts that are going to be harmed. Sure.
And I think it saddens me to think that we're not talking at all about what's great for the kids, what's best for the kids, what the programming is that should happen for the kids, and the cost or the savings.
Yeah.
It has not been about the children.
Return on investment is what we kept hearing.
Other comments or questions?
So I did contact all our legislators about the veto override, and I did hear back from Representative Davila and Senator Patton. They said thank you for your comments, and I'll take them into consideration.
Oh, even Davila was quoted in the paper the other day saying they're standing and ready to override.
Oh,
In the
okay. He didn't write that in his
Cleveland.com
email.
article,
to
he
me.
said he is prepared and ready for the override. That's
Posted
not
on
verbatim,
LinkedIn.
but it's pretty close to
Yeah.
verbatim.
He wrote me a,
I got a very long email from him that was like, I'm thinking about everything and I'm weighing all the options, and I appreciate your feedback and taking, so, okay. I didn't read that article.
He's been very communicative with us, I'll say that. He
Yeah,
has.
that is true. Yes.
Any other comments or questions? All right, thanks for the presentation. We're going to move on.
We're going to move on to the most exhilarating conversation of the night. We're going to go from that excited. See, I should have flipped that, right? We should have had you guys go first.
Wait, are we bringing Dr. Martin back up?
No, we're never doing that. So I'll invite Marvin and Jeremy. They're here from Baker Tilly. As you know, they've been working with the district on our TIF, our tax increment financing things that we have going on in the district. So they're going to give us an overview of what they've uncovered over the past year. Shouldn't say uncovered, but give us an update of what's been going on over the past year. So I will turn it over to them at this point.
Before we go into that, I want to recognize Craig for his spotlight, ASBO this week. It's really sent across the state to school districts through ASBO and allowed Craig to give a little bit of information about himself, but I think it also demonstrates the experience and what you bring to the table for Brexville Broadview Heights as well as other treasures throughout the state. So congratulations on that.
I got all these text messages. I didn't even see the email when it went out. And I was like, why are these people all texting me?
So we were here about a year ago to really give you the base of information about tax incentives, why they exist, how they're used by school districts, what approval that school boards can have in tax incentive programs and what they can't. This year, we're just going to get right into it, what is immediately affecting you. I'm going to give you the overview high level. Craig, I'm going to have you go to the next slide first, and we'll come back to this. And then Jeremy will get into the detail of what's been happening in the economic development in these areas where this tax increment financing agreements have been put into place for both Brecksville and Broadview Heights. This chart, I'm going to try to make it as simple as possible, is how tax increment financing works. Why they're used is to provide revenue to the local government to put in infrastructure for economic development. So taxes that are generated through tax increment financing are used to build streets, lights, water retention for the areas where new development is coming in, whether it's commercial, office space, residential. The way in which it works, there is always property already existing. Typically it's vacant land, but there is value and there's taxes being received by the school district from that property. That's the baseline property value. Jeremy's going to hit these different areas. That's why I want to cover it now. So that baseline property value stays as is, keeps coming to the school districts as it did before through tax settlements. Once a tax agreement is put into place for a TIF, then the values that increase over time because of that development happening, the new development going in, that value and taxes from it go into a fund. And those are used for the improvements that I mentioned about infrastructure. But there can also be agreements of revenue coming back to the school district through this tax increment financing agreement. Taxes that go into this are not only the school district taxes, but other local jurisdictions as well, parks, county, library, any local entity that has tax revenue from properties being collected goes into this, and then so it's used in the different ways that I just explained. Once the agreements mature, in that full value of the property comes on the books, and full collection by the school district begins at that time. So that's how the TIF works. Going back to the first slide, Greg, we talked about Ohio law already, a lot of Ohio law today. This is all provided for through Ohio law for economic development purposes. We've broken this down really what doesn't require school approval and what does require school approval. In Ohio law, TIFs can be put into place up to 75% in 10 years without coming to the Board of Education for approval. Anything over that would require school district approval unless the school district is made whole and held harmless. And so those can go through without school board approval, as we've listed here under Ohio law. What is required by school district approval is if it exceeds that 10-year 75%, and anything up to 100% in 30 years must be school district approved. And in those cases, a lot of times compensation agreements are entered into. So in the city of Brecksville, none of the agreements fall under the top listing here, but they do fall in that category of 100% for 30 years. There are agreements in place in that 25%. In general, the calculation is 25% of the collections, the payments do come to the school district as they would have otherwise. There is an exception to that for any new levies passed by the school district after coming into effect after January 1st of 2019, 100% will be paid back to the school district for those new tax levies. Under the city of Broadview Heights, the agreements do fall under the 100% for 30 years, but it is a hold harmless. The full amount that the school district would have received otherwise without the agreement would be received by the school district. So held harmless in that case. At this time, there aren't any other TIF agreements with the city of Broadview Heights. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jeremy to go into some of the details.
A pleasure to be with you again this year to kind of go over things. And you got to hear a whole bunch about how there was change just a couple minutes ago in the budget bill. Probably not a lot of that was welcome change. Hopefully the changes that we talk about here are much more welcome changes. So as Marvin mentioned, there's a compensation agreement for the city of Brecksville. I'm sure you drive by it, you see it, you've seen how things have been coming out of the ground. The biggest thing is probably the Sherwin-Williams. So we wanted to give just a snapshot. This is a view from the county auditor's website of the parcels that make it up. There are basically 5 major areas that continue to be looking at and monitoring. We'll just kind of work our way down up on the very top part here. That's a residential piece. Not a lot has come through here. That will be reserved in the next couple of years, according to talking with the developers. Those will be single family homes coming in. There have been some kind of joined there are 8 units there at the top that are residential, and we'll talk about some of the property value that has come in due to that. And then townhomes, another portion in this that we have highlighted, kind of circle or squared in blue. There's going to be some townhomes there. Moving over the multifamily, the apartments in that kind of orangish yellow. And then the one that probably is most complete, you see it, the Sherwin-Williams research area. And then this right here, Marvin and I had an opportunity to go by it once again. And right now, this is just the holding place for dirt. But one day that's supposed to be reserved for additional commercial. And then down here, we have the DiGeronimo, the developer, their headquarters. Nice new building there. And then some other infrastructure starting to come out of the ground there. So we'll kind of, if you try to remember these colors, we'll talk about some of the growth that we have, and we have it kind of colored there for these different areas. Actual compensation payments on the next slide, we'll go through kind of on a high level, but Sherwin-Williams, the land value was last year. We have a good amount of development though. I think it's about 40 million in actual improvement value for that building. Was brought on here, and kind of thinking back, we might have talked about this last year, but the way that the values are done, it's last year's value as of kind of a snapshot in January 1st is what is collected in this year. So it might look more complete, but the actual, what the county auditor saw as being complete at that snapshot in time was approximately 40 million in infrastructure increment in improvement value. And then we have down here, we do have the residential homes. We have it circled in green there on this picture. Some additional value has come in that section. And then this was fairly complete last year. Not a lot of change for the multifamily, the Valor Acres there. A new portion though here on the bottom section, if you remember that last picture we looked at, is that the DiGeronimo, their headquarters, as well as additional improvements. On the next slide then, just a real quick look at City of Broadview Heights. As Marvin mentioned, there are a couple that we have there that you already made whole through the process. And that comes through just normally on the tax bills. And then, so we have an eye center, we've got the car wash and Aldi, just kind of to give you a lay of the land there on Royalton Road. To the next slide, now we're gonna go into the actual values. Marvin mentioned kind of that bottom section where you have already historical values. That's this first column there talking about what historical values are being assigned. That's what your property taxes, that's what's being collected and coming through the normal settlements. And then we talk about the increment value. So that orange triangle in the middle that Marvin mentioned, that those actual compensation payments then are being paid off of. On the next slide, we'll look at real quick here. Wanted to give a snapshot of what did it look like last year, that increment value, and what was the increment value now with this year. And so you can see kind of jumping to the far right, the total in the Sherwin-Williams, the Valor Acres area, we're at about 56 million in increase of that increment value that then compensation payments through the city of Brecksville are being paid upon. Not a lot of change in the city of Broadview Heights, but you did just go through the reappraisal, and reappraisals also increase the value. And that's really what we're seeing there for the Broadview Heights. That does increase the amount that is paid. The majority, if not all, in the city of Brecksville is that new improvement, the new value of those buildings as they're coming out of the ground and being completed. If we go on to the next, then looking at then that 65 million, as Marvin mentioned down here in the bottom, at your leisure, you can see what the compensation formula is, but it takes basically the ratio between all those levies that have been passed, that have millage, all the entities that are collecting. That's on the bottom of the equation, and then we're getting that ratio of what portion of taxes are approximately going to the city, and then that's taken by 25% of anything that was in place prior to that January 1st of 19. So you may ask, what does that mean? If we just kind of look down here at the bottom, then with the increase in that the commercial value at around 65 million, as we looked at it last year, I want to say it was around 30 to, I think for the full calendar year, it was about a $65,000 between everything. And now we're looking at about 350, almost 360, all the way there to the right for all. If we're looking at just the city of Brecksville portion, thank you, the city of Brecksville portion, if we put the two together there, we're looking at around that 280,000 for this year as things has continued to grow, which again, a sizable change from that 60 to 60,000. You always have to remember with development, it doesn't all come at once, and so that increase in the compensation payments also come over time. If we go to the last that I'll cover here, going back to that full map of that area, those color codings, a change you might have recalled from last year when we were with you, that our action steps, the things that we were going to be doing after we had talked with you, I think it was around June, so we were going to be setting up meetings to talk with the developer, try to get some idea of what are those build assumptions, what is coming, when is it coming, and we were able to do that. We were able to get from them an idea of what that build out was going to be for the residential area, for this multi-use, which is where the headquarters is, and then tried to put some numbers behind that for this year's report. So with that, just kind of a high level, if we look at Sherwin-Williams, while we're sitting at around, I think it's 48 or 58 million in current, expecting based on what we've been provided as information, to be up to about 110 million. So getting additional 62 million in that, this is market value for that property. And then we would expect, and if you've driven by it, it looks very complete. We would expect that would be about the full value that would be there. And, would expect, if this does come on as so, that another fairly good increase in the amount of compensation payment would come again next year. And I will just kind of point out on a couple of these, the build out that was provided really, we're looking at this current year of the collection year 25, and we were given about a 5-year look of 26, 27, 28, 29 to 30 of when things might be being built out. Remembering that, It may not be that, and part of what Marvin will kind of wrap this up here. It's one of the things that we like to do is continue to have those conversations with the city, with Craig, with the developer. So we have each year as we're updating things, we can try to have the best idea of what that build out new values are going to be. And again, the additional piece here, the residential piece, expecting the residential to kind of be built out over the next several years. I guess that's the Crowland property down here. And as I said, the collection of dirt right now is this green one, but that'll be another one that we'll want to continue to have that conversation with the developer. So once they have more concrete ideas, we can put more and better ideas behind what the projections are. But for this update of the report this year, we're able to give Craig some idea of that build out based on what was provided by the developers. We'll wrap this up, Marvin.
Yeah, I should say there's been good dialogue actually with city. Jeremy's done most of it, but with cities, the two cities and also the county. So that process has gone well and worked the way that we would expect it. So we've provided more detailed report to Craig with this projection of what it could look like down the road 10, 15 years from now as well. We'll continue to update that. Happy to take any questions.
I just kind of have an elementary question. I'm not sure what's the CIC references throughout the outline. It's not on this page, but like,
that's a description. I'd have to look back at the resolutions. It came specifically from the resident or the city's resolutions when they passed it. I can see if I can find out what the CIC means.
oh, okay.
Just had a question on the 30-year time frame, because in the original setup, where you talked about with tax increment financing, it was mentioned that when the development is done, kind of then the full value goes on the books, but then there's a 30-year agreement. So what if all of development is done in 22 years? Does it end there, or does it go to the full 30 years? And then consequently, what if there were delays and it hasn't been all built out by 30 years? Is that reconciled, or is it a hard 30 years?
In general, it's a 30-year period. It'd have to go back to the original agreements. I haven't looked at them in the last couple of weeks here, but they can be written in every different way that it's when it's no longer needed for the debt. I believe that this is a straight 30 years, but I can check on that. Just verify that.
I was just curious.
Yeah, so it's 30 years from the start of the collection. So any of these that have started being collected, the clock started.
Okay. So as the properties come on, could extend more than 30 years technically as properties come on, those also get the 30-year period. Does that make sense? As properties come on.
So it's not the entire, you're saying like each of these segments could restart a clock for each of those segments?
Yeah, so in general, those, there are a couple that are on the same agreement, we'll call it. But in general, those different colors that I had there were attached to some different specific parcels that then were parceled.
So they have their own clock.
Yeah. And so each of those different ones could have their own clock.
That could actually be an ad that we put in the report as the predictions of build out are. Then we'll have the final year of each one of those build outs on the report. So we'll start adding that. Now that we're kind of getting the front end loaded, we'll start paying more attention to that back end as well.
It's a great question because it can be different in every agreement.
So when did we start collecting? It's only been a couple years, right?
2 years, I think,
Yeah, I
is
was
what we
gonna say
collected. The first year was really light.
Yeah.
I think in working with Greg, last year was your first year for Broadview Heights. I think it was a conversation he and I and Marvin had right when we were starting looking at things. I think that was the first year that came on. And then last year, I believe, was the first year that the city of Brecksville made the compensation for the starting portions that.
Great. Any other
Thank you.
questions or comments? Yeah, thanks for your presentation.
Thank you for coming up. And then also, as Marvin had or was talking about, that report is here. So here's the final report that if you want to really just put it into chat GPT, put it into chat GPT or something. Cause it's, I was like, I'll pull it up just so you can see it real quick, but it is, it's not too bad, but it has a lot of, it's got a lot of numbers on it.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
The presentation has the printers.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go.
So if you really want to dive in, then there you go. It is available for you. All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you. All right. We will move on to another exhilarating topic. So I'm going to invite Rachel up. She has been spearheading this project for us. I think we have good news to share, in my opinion. This is a spyglass audit, so I will let her take it away. And go ahead.
All right. Probably one of the topics on the top of your list of things that keep you lying awake at night. We're going to talk a little bit about communication service audits. So what this is, we were approached by a company called Spyglass, and what they do, Spyglass is a company that kind of found their foundation in understanding that a lot of folks don't understand the entirety of the contents of their communications bills, as a lot of utility companies, I think, take advantage of that in their customers. So their primary aims are to identify redundancies in our service, overcharges, things that contrast with what's agreed to in our contracts and what appears on our actual invoices. And then just streamlining our services, reviewing for things that might have been relevant a few years ago, but in the changing technology landscape of today may already no longer be necessary for the district and for their other customers. So we're just going to talk a little bit more about how we got into a relationship with Spyglass, how this audit process went for us, including our findings, how we relate to some of their other customers that have utilized this service, and what our next steps are after we have concluded this work. So like I said, Spyglass, they're looking for redundancies, eliminate any unused services. They're looking for ways for us to save on our communications charges. And I think in the current landscape of school funding, it is imperative that we are optimizing every single dollar that we have. So this is a great exercise for us. Because we did not have a known relationship with Spyglass, we did spend some time vetting them, and they provided us with some references after we first made our acquaintance. We spoke at length with the operational team at the Strongsville City School District, who is one of the examples of folks that they have worked with high return in the school district arena. And then from a past life, we made a connection that they had a very lucrative return with the Hyatt Regency in Columbus. And I had a personal relationship with or a working relationship previously with the general manager there, and was able to hear a little bit about their experience before we proceeded with this audit. So after understanding that they had provided an excellent service, the process that we entered into was first uploading materials that they had requested, contracts relating to each of our communication services, and the invoices for the past several months, so they could review those against one another. We had a kickoff meeting with their team just to understand what that process would look like, and to make sure that they had all the materials that they would need from us and all the permissions they would need for us to conduct the audit as well. From there, they started having chats with our vendors and collecting any additional material that they needed, and began their analysis and met with us for a summary of findings. We were able to make some decisions about what we would realistically implement. They were pretty transparent with us right out of the gate that not every finding would be something that we would choose to implement. Some things were suggestions, some things would be great for our business, some things maybe not so important to us, or things that we might want to keep. And then we were able to have a discussion and understand how we performed against other districts and other businesses. So this is a snapshot of some of our findings. One of the best things about this relationship with Spyglass, there was no upfront fee. The way that they collect their funds and how they stay in business is collecting a percentage of their findings. So if they don't find us any savings, they don't get anything. one thing that was included regardless of the outcome, even if we had selected to implement 0 of their suggestions, was a full inventory of all of our communication services. And that's not just saying, obviously we see the bills come through every month for AT&T, Spectrum, Cox, and our FirstCom services as well. But very few of those services are itemized. Do we have a full understanding of what we're being charged for on a month-to-month basis? So they broke this down into every single nitty-gritty piece, including the taxes that are being paid, and if they should be paid by an entity such as ours that is state tax exempt. And we found some sneaky state taxes hiding in there as well. So this was our inventory. In addition to having all of these services laid out before us to review, they also had made some suggestions as to what they thought would be best to eliminate. So here is a quick snapshot of what we did end up implementing. I will say we did not implement every suggestion that they had. Some of them were realistic, some of them were not, and some of them were no-brainers. So there were, like I said, a couple of our vendors, AT&T and Cox, there were some state taxes that were just not disclosed as state particular taxes on our invoices, and therefore we're able to translate into savings. And some of the most surprising ones that added up very swiftly were outdated agreements with FirstCom. This is our telephone services for the district, to be listed in the phone book. How many of you guys have a phone book that you're still peeling through? I do. I read it every night. For our additional listings, we are paying on a monthly basis $4.99 a month for each of we get one free to start. So the district gets to be listed once in the phone book. And then we had some very old additional listings for each school. Each school line also had some additional listings for being able to reach the counselors, the attendance lines, and just a variety of other direct lines listed in the phone book that could easily be found now on our website or through other means. And it did not make sense to have those listings being charged to us every single month for $4.99 for every single additional line. So that's actually where you're going to see the bulk of our savings. In the column here where it says forward-looking monthly savings, this is what we'll save every month, anticipated. And what it comes out to for annual savings is just under $2,000. Spyglass does collect 50% of your first year savings. So their overall fee for conducting the audit was $952. However, we will continue to reap the benefits of the savings in future years, in addition to what was saved here for the first year, which is 50%. This is a quick look at how we performed. Spyglass met with me just a few days ago to share that of their 15,500 clients, 2,200 of them are public school districts, and that's where they wanted to lay out our comparison concerning our performance. Before the audit, they had us at a benchmark score of 87% efficiency, and in comparison to other school districts, those were at about 77% efficiency, meaning that they found that our dollars were being used for services that are being utilized, and that makes sense for us as a district. After the audit, with what we did choose to implement, we were escalated very slightly to an 89% efficiency score against a benchmark of 84. So still outperforming the other public school districts. What we really took away from this experience was that we were running a fairly tight ship as far as how we were spending our dollars in the communications arena, but there is always improvements to be made. And we did find some money that was being spent on things that did not make sense for us or make sense for the current times. So moving forward, if you go on to the next slide for me, Craig, we did have a conversation about, is this it? Are we done with Spyglass? We conducted this audit. It's not really something we need to do every single year. Our contracts are in place usually for multiple years. However, there were some conversations about how we might move forward. One thing I will mention, we did also have some additional savings that resulted in part from this audit that would not have been shown on the invoice that we displayed. We had communicated to Spyglass as we started this relationship that we had already identified some potential billing concerns with Spectrum and potential redundancies with FirstCom. So we actually did find that we were being overbilled to what was distinctly named in our contract by about $100 a month, which was recovered. They did assist us free of charge because we had identified that as something we had already discovered before the audit began. They assisted us with return of those funds. And moving forward, they have made some suggestions for how we might also identify other opportunities within our organization. One thing they mentioned is that the POTS lines, which are the copper lines, landlines, as we're familiar with, that we still have a couple of. We have one in our high school that services our emergency elevator. And then Assumption does also have a POTS line. These lines, they have seen a drastic increase in the cost of these lines that have already been announced in other markets, Chicago in specific. They had brought forward as an example on our call the other day that had been seeing 100 to 200% increase because these lines are so considered archaic. They are becoming more costly to maintain. So their suggestion was to meet with our elevator vendors to have a discussion about how those lines might be modernized in order to result in future savings, because they do anticipate that the Cleveland area market will have significant cost increases as well through AT&T. And they also announced that they are moving into the arena of analysis and auditing services with natural gas and electricity. We had some preliminary discussions about why that could be valuable to us. We do have some slightly more complex relationships than they are accustomed to as they kind of get into this arena with our relationship with EUS and also with the OSC gas relationship. But I do think there will be, as they get a little bit more experience, an opportunity here, maybe the next year or two, to meet again with Spyglass and audit these services and see if there are any other hidden savings that we have not yet been able to identify. Does anybody have any questions about our Spyglass audits?
I saw Dr. Martin was like, you loved that chart, didn't you? It was this benchmark. He's like, wait, where do we, he was,
Those look like OST score.
I know, he thought it was
Yeah.
It was encouraging to see that we were actually in pretty good shape, that we had been so fiscally responsible. So
Yes,
no surprise.
the contracts have been well managed. There are always going to be, with the changing times, things that become not necessary any longer. So we'll just have to keep close eyes on it. I think that's something that we have learned through this process, is just to continue to monitor our services and internally audit as we move forward to make sure that we're current with the times.
Yeah, this was,
Oh, go ahead.
go ahead.
So nope,
No,
go right ahead.
No,
I was just gonna say, I just want to thank you. I think that how you laid out the presentation from your how you engaged with them from the beginning, letting us know how the audit was conducted was really, really helpful to me as a board member. And I do think it's great that we're able to see the level of operational efficiency that we have with this. It's a health check, right? Of
It is.
you know, what else can we do? And I do think that that's one thing that we are good at. Craig, I mean, how much are we saving or spending on copy paper? We are always looking when we talk about, every cent counts. So I appreciate that we are doing those audits and those health checks to see where else can we save money so that we are putting our dollars towards the kids. Thank you.
Pleasure.
yeah, this was a great opportunity because it's really no risk since the company takes a percentage of savings. So if they don't find savings, then we're not out any money. So that's great. And even though the savings are, small, they're still savings. So, as much as we can in all areas, we want to try to wring out as much efficiency as we can. So that's great. Thanks for your efforts on this.
Absolutely. And one of the nice things too is when they find savings, things that we should not have been billed for, they do go back and try to recover as far back as they can. So in the overpayments of taxes, as well as, the additional listings in the phone book, unfortunately, are something that we can't pass recover, but we can stop it in its tracks right now and make sure that we don't spend any further in that direction.
Great. Any other comments or questions?
Do they have a recommendation, like when would you repeat the same audit?
They don't have a hard and fast rule, but they say that you generally are not going to repeat this audit within the next year or two. A health check, maybe every 3, 4, 5 years, depending on what your district overall spend is. We do not funnel a ton of money into our communications utilities. So I think that I probably would look to approach them or revisit this in 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, and one of their strong points, as Rachel kind of indicated, is what they can see on the back end. So what she's talking about is that you think that you see what's on your bill, but it's not really what's on your bill. There's this whole back end, and that's the part that they know and they understand. So it's like when you see your like Verizon bill, it all of a sudden creeps up like 30 cents every month. You don't really know exactly why all the time. That's where they can identify some of those changes. So I would agree, probably like 3, 4 years, just to make sure things aren't creeping in on the back end somewhere. I wanted there to be zero savings myself, but I'm glad we found some. I wanted to be 100%.
Both good and bad that we found some savings.
Yes.
Right. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Rachel.
Okay, let's get through this financial report pretty quick. I kind of summed up a lot of this stuff from last month when we closed out the fiscal year. So this is our ending for June. So we only brought in about $1 million in the month of June, and we spent 12.7. How do we do that? Well, you see this large transfer down here that we did to bring down our cash balance. So we talked about that. We've allocated those funds into severance, primarily capital, campus master plan and capital projects, PI, all of those types of things is where we moved some of those funds so that we could be in compliance. Oops, go this way. When we compare our May revenue from one year to the next, we see this larger increase. This was predominantly due to that additional money that we received from the state in catastrophic aid or threshold costs now. Again, this is a good, bad kind of thing because we got so much, just means that our special ed costs have gone up that much more. So this was unexpected technically. We weren't really sure that the number would be this high. Normally we get about $400,000 a year in catastrophic or threshold cost, and this year we got $600,000, which was our largest since I've been here for sure. Other revenues were just slightly lower, but nothing to worry about. On the expenditure side, you see this large gap, and that's because transfers count as a expense. So that's why that's there. Current salaries and benefits, everything was all in alignment with what they should be, a little bit slightly under. But then this is what our ending cash balance was, which takes us down to $19 million. Again, you can see our fiscal year to date. So that's the whole fiscal year picture. Green is last year for revenues. Blue is last year for expenses, which was almost spot on. And then we look as we see that large increase. Again, that's from the transfers primarily, but you see orange were the revenues for this year and purple is the expenses for the year. So this part, if it goes down, there we go, maybe. Let me do this. It's just an executive summary of kind of just, again, recapping the whole fiscal year. So you can see that at a glance. It does show that we were, at the end of the year, we're sitting at 124 days of cash, whereas we started the year at, I think, 173, if I recall. But again, that's the difference. This is that monthly cash flow for the whole year. So again, you can see where our real estate dollars come in, which is predominantly here and then predominantly here for the fall and the spring. And what else do we have? Just again, how our stuff is constructed. You can see this dark color is our real estate. So again, we are very heavily funded at the local level for real estate. And then those are the other categories. We get very, very little state aid, both unrestricted and restricted. And everything according on the expenditure side actually looks very good, with the exception of where the transfers were as it compares to the forecast. All of the other line items were all with an alignment and a variance of, I think, under like 1 or 2%. Like you can see that personnel costs were under budget by 0.4%. So we did very well in all the other categories at the end of the year. You can see this is how we spend our money, obviously. Personnel services, we've always talked about this as well. 87% of our budget is spent on salaries and benefits. So those are our top 2 items until this little guy down here came in this year. Those are our transfers out, but you can see our purchase services, supplies and materials, and other objects are also on the list, but purchase services are usually our third biggest expense as a district. Again, this just talks about the budget variances. Some of this is obviously driven by House Bill 96. and our cash reserve analysis. So our current reserve is 124 days is relative to the upper recommended threshold of 180 days. For us, it's really about 150 days, but our minimum safety level is we are above that, which our minimum threshold is 90 days. So we are still doing well in terms of a minimum threshold. And then we're going to obviously at this point try to see where we can go at the fiscal year end to see if we can keep it as balanced as possible as we work towards the next forecast. Are there any questions about the closing of last fiscal year?
So how much do we spend on administrative expenses?
Actually, I could tell you.
You can,
I can.
Yeah,
Of course I can.
but you know he
Right,
can't.
Chuck?
but how do you, what is it? Well, that's-
11.86%.
Okay.
And I checked some of our peers and
I'm
we
gonna
are,
guess,
we are,
I'm
we are
gonna
the,
guess
we are the
it's un-
lowest.
I'm gonna guess it's under 15%.
It is, yes. It is under 15%. So yeah, it's all coded by function, we believe. There is some, as Jeff kind of mentioned, we don't exactly know if they're going to come out with other guidance. There are, in the USAS manual, we kind of know what's considered administrative costs. I track every year the what we used to be called the CUP report, which is now the state, what is this called? The expenditure analysis or profile report. So it tracks what our spending per pupil is and whatnot. So that's the number that we're kind of using as our guide. We don't know if that's the official metric yet. We'll see.
Did you add in the little yellow plaque there about the 28.2% reduction? Or is that,
Yep.
that just automatically, Jim? Oh, okay.
AI at its best. You did a nice job.
Other comments or questions?
Okay. Cash position annual spending plans are there for your review.
Okay, thanks. We're gonna move on to item 6, community communications, hearing of the public. Is anybody in the room? Does anybody wish to be heard? Do we have anybody signed up?
I don't have anybody.
No one? Okay, all right. Well, then we're gonna dispense with it and we're gonna move on to item 7, consent agenda. Item A, resolve to approve certified personnel recommendations. Item B, resolve to approve classified personnel recommendations. Item C, resolve to approve supplemental personnel recommendations. Item D, resolve to approve the check register and bank reconciliation for June 2025 as attached. Item E, resolve to approve minutes from the June 25th, 2025 regular board meeting as attached. Item F, resolve to approve superintendent's consent items A through E. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Not huge list this meeting that we've had here recently. We do have one new hire on the agenda that I'll ask Mr. Wyckoff to come up to introduce, and one unpaid leave that is on there as well. And as he's coming to the podium, I'll tell you, we're getting close to getting all of our positions filled. We're still looking for 3/4 of phys ed positions at the high school. Mr. Wyckoff is interviewed today and tomorrow for that, as well as a math position of late resignation. So those individuals we will have on board before the start of school, but they won't be board approved until our board meeting in August, which is actually the first day of school. That's right.
Good evening. It is my privilege to introduce Reagan Monahan. She is coming to us, she is going to be our 4th grade teacher. She is fresh out of college. She's from Kent State. And as you guys are all presenting, I'm like, don't worry about it. It's all good. Don't worry about it. It's all, we'll take care of this stuff. So actually, she went through another lengthy interview process through the elementary school. And when it came down to the end, she was the selected candidate. I believe you are from this area?
Yes, I'm from Cleveland. I went to college.
She went to Padua. So, and in the process of the interviews and going through everything and talking to Bob, he was all excited about the fact that he was able to bring her on board. And so I said to her, I said, well, we're going to have you come to a board meeting and just introduce you real quick. You missed the big party last month where we did, I don't know how many we hired last month, 12 or 13, something like that. So, but welcome to the district. Okay. And I don't know if you want to just, you really don't have.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, welcome.
Yeah.
All right.
Welcome.
Surgeries, all the a little bit of on the classified side, again, we celebrate our bus driver. So we have a bus driver on here in custodian 2. couple resignations, retirement, and paid leave. Supplemental one is a large list like last month. We are, since if you remember, we partnered with Coaches Tool Chest to help with a lot of the certifications for our coaches. And they all come due or need to be renewed at the end of June. So it has kind of streamlined that process for Mr. Wyckoff and Mr. Matalona. This is the vast bulk of coaches for the fall. We have a couple that aren't on here yet, simply because we're waiting on things to arrive from the state. Our coaches have done everything they needed to do. We're just waiting on the pupil activity permit to arrive. So it is a review list this month.
Okay. The check register and the bank reconciliation are here for you to take a look at, or hopefully you have taken a look at it already. Just as a reminder, you usually do see on the bank reconciliation for June, there's a lot more deposits in transit. Once we shut down the books, there's certain things that go in and out. That all gets very intensely audited. They always audit our bank reconciliation from June and July. They look at everything on the audit side just because that's when things happen as you're crossing over fiscal years. Everything looks good there. And then you have the minutes from last month's meeting.
Did you change the format of the check register? I'm not asking you to read it. I'm just
So
wondering.
it's a different report that I thought was a little easier to read. So yes, it's just a different report, but it's still one looks one way, one looks the other way. So yes, good catch. I know, she's reading it.
Yeah, in my free time for fun. I do think it is easier.
It's a little easier to
like,
read.
Like bring it instead of just every single thing listed and you're just glazing over it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of nice in this format.
Any other comments or questions? Roll call.
Mrs. Gaelic,
Yes.
Mrs. Kramer,
Yes.
Mrs. Pikowski.
Yes.
Ms. O'Meara,
Yes.
Mr. Dosen.
Yes, item passes 5-0. Reagan, welcome aboard.
Welcome.
We're going to move on with the agenda, but if you wanted to leave, you can certainly leave. Don't feel bad. Enjoy your summer.
Thank you.
We're going to move on to item 8, superintendent's recommendations. Item A, resolve to approve the 2025-2026 ESC audiology and hearing impairment services agreement as attached. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Both item A and item C here are typical agreements we have with our ESC to provide services for students with special needs. A lot of times we're putting these on the books for when we need them, but we also do have many students who receive these services.
I did reach out and ask Cassie Spangler if we have any students that are receiving deaf and hard of hearing, which would be the services. We don't currently, but it is just comprehensive in case we ever need it. Mr. Harrison knows I was asking a lot of questions. Yeah.
Which is great.
Any other comments or questions? Roll call.
Mrs. Gaelic,
Yes.
Mrs. Kramer,
Yes.
Mrs. Pikowski.
Yes.
Ms. O'Meara,
Yes.
Mr. Dosen.
Yes, item passes 5-0. Moving on to item C, resolve to approve the 2025-2026 ESC visual impairment services agreement as attached. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Same as the one prior.
Any comments or questions? Roll call.
Mrs. Gaelic,
Yes.
Mrs. Kramer,
Yes.
Mrs. Pikowski.
Yes.
Ms. O'Meara,
Yes.
Mr. Dosen.
Yes, item passes 5-0. Item E, resolve to approve BBH High School cross-country trip proposal as attached. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
This is a team camp that our cross-country team is going to. There are other teams at the camp. It's a camp where they do the workouts. The grounds for this campground, which is Northwestern Ohio Christian Campgrounds, is used by many schools in our area. When I was the athletic director at Medina, both of our teams would go. They spend the day running the courses that they have throughout the campgrounds, and then they use this time also just to build, team chemistry.
Comments or questions? Roll call.
Mrs. Gaelic,
Yes.
Mrs. Kramer,
Yes.
Mrs. Pikowski.
Yes.
Ms. O'Meara,
Yes.
Mr. Dosen.
Yes, item passes 5-0. Item G, resolve to approve the second amended and restated consortium agreement of Suburban Health Consortium as attached. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
This is an agreement that we're looking for approval on, just as this past year, almost two since I've been here. Craig and I both have been active participants with our health consortium, helping bring down rates, helping run at a much more efficient pace that the consortium has over the 20-some years it's been in existence. We host our meetings at CVCC, so really Craig and I have no excuse not to go. But many a times I'm one of two superintendents in the room of the 19 school districts. So this is just streamlining it, allowing the consortium to make decisions in a much more timely fashion. Because right now we have to have resolutions from every single board of every single school district that's involved. We need to be able to be a little bit more nimble than that. Currently, Craig serves as a secretary of this and is not a voting member. I will apply or volunteer to be part of the executive group to help keep the consortium moving forward. But Craig and I both serve in an active role.
I am a voting member now.
Right now,
Technically,
but
yes.
once this is approved, then.
Well, yeah. So the other part of this is that the reason why he's saying, so as a secretary, I technically have a voting block, but we're going to be maybe shifting to being the fiscal agent. So Orange is no longer going to be the fiscal agent. So we've kind of thrown our name in the hat. So at the August meeting in Suburban, we are going to be, if they would approve us, we would be the fiscal agent for the consortium. That does come with a benefit to the district for doing those administrative services. So the total could be upwards of $50,000 or $60,000 that we would receive for doing that work. So that's paying the bills for the consortium and doing all of that compliance, going through an audit because that's a separate audit and whatnot. So in that role, I would not have a vote. So Jeff has stepped up, and it's good that he's as a superintendent to be involved because we don't have a lot of superintendents involved to be a part of this new structure of 9 executive members that would be making decisions for the consortium. So we will be very well represented.
If we're picked, I think we're the only.
Well, yeah, I think
we're the only ones that volunteered, probably.
And fun story. When I first got hired here and I had to go to my first consortium meeting because I was hired in February and I had to go on like February 16th, I put in my GPS because I didn't know where it was. And I'm like, I don't know where CVCC is. And I'm like, I left like 30 minutes early and I like put in my GPS. I'm like, oh, I'm going to be there in like 2 minutes. It's fun.
Unless you take Wallings Road, then it might be.
True. I can slow me down.
We voted on this last year.
That was just an amendment.
Yeah. Okay.
This is kind of cleaning
That's
up
right.
all of the language and restating it. And it is also changing some of the governance structure. There's more changes as part of this.
Do we know why Orange pulled out?
Mostly due to their change in treasurer. So their treasurer is retired or is retired. Well, yeah, no, he's retiring this month. So they're going to maintain it through October. We wouldn't take over until October, but their board has indicated that they do not want their new treasurer and their district to be the fiscal agent anymore.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So all those functions will come through your office. You're gonna.
Correct. This new consortium, part of this does allow us as the fiscal agent to outsource that work. So we are in talks with SSA. We would still benefit, but we as a transition, at least, the outgoing fiscal agent who was at Orange, who's retired, is considering the ability to do some of this work for us. We would contract that out through SSA. At least as we transition, because it'll make it much more smooth.
Shared Services Alliance out of the ESC.
So is one of the changes also to open this up to non-school districts?
Yes.
And is it the hope that we could recruit other organizations to participate?
So it has to be a political subdivision, I believe. And like the biggest entrance is some of the school libraries. Because Brecksville's branch is like a Cuyahoga County branch, so it wouldn't qualify, or I don't think they'd be part of it. They're in their own consortium. But Rocky River is who kind of led that initiative because their library is very much wanting to be a part of it to get better. Their health insurance is extremely expensive because they're a really small group. So that's kind of how this was spearheaded. But I think they're also talking to maybe Lakewood and a couple of other libraries that are school-related libraries or attached to a school. That would be able to join.
And we're always actively trying to recruit other school districts. We've had a couple leave. We're looking to add, but it's a big change. Even though a school district could save money, it's a lot of manpower and work behind the scenes to make that a smooth process. So it's a big change for districts.
And it is rebounding. Not that this is really on topic, but we are looking right now, probably they're saying 10% or less. So we're kind of coming down a little bit as we've recovered. financially since the post-COVID era, I guess, with healthcare.
Meaning this year, that's what they're,
Our renewal rate for next year, they're looking at 10. I'm like, we get to 9, really great.
Yeah.
But we were at 13.
Don't
so-
get greedy.
Yeah, I know. And then last year was like 11 something. So we're going in the right direction to get healthcare costs under control again.
any other comments or questions?
Roll call. Mrs. Gaelic,
Yes.
Mrs. Kramer,
Yes.
Mrs. Kwiatkowski,
Yes.
Ms. O'Meara,
Yes.
Mr. Dosen.
Yes, item passes 5-0. Item I, resolve to approve the resolution declaring transportation impractical for the 2025-2026 school year as attached. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
These are for students who do not attend our schools, attend private schools. And it is not feasible for us to transport them, so they get payment in lieu of. Upwards of $600, I believe.
Any comments or questions?
So I just, these payments in lieu of transportation are to private school student, the family. the
Family.
Private, okay.
Yes.
So this is in addition to the vouchers. that they're
Correct.
Getting.
Do families have to request these? Like I see 4 names for Padua. Like, does each family have to come to us and request?
Yes.
So if a family goes to Padua but doesn't request this, they don't
Correct.
automatically get it.
Any other comments or questions? Roll call.
Mrs. Gaelic,
Yes.
Mrs. Kramer,
Yes.
Mrs. Kwiatkowski,
Yes.
Ms. O'Meara,
Yes.
Mr. Dosen.
Yes, item passes 5-0. Item K, resolve to approve the contract with the K Company for the replacement of the BBH High School boiler number 2 and associated pumps through the Cooperative Council of Governments, Equalis Group, and the K Company as attached. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
It's part of our ongoing maintenance and permanent improvement as the systems are starting to age at the high school. As it reaches that 25-year mark, they're being replaced. So this is replacing boiler number 2.
And also just to mention, so when you see like the Qualis Group, that's a cooperative purchasing agreement. It doesn't mean, just for transparency purposes, that the district did not seek additional quotes. So different vendors use different cooperative purchasing agreements. So Amoresco, who did the chiller, also used Equalis. So Mr. Koss also did get other quotes for this, and this was the lowest that we found by about $150,000 in saving or difference. And then there was a third company that did not even give us a quote. So just for context, that just because this is here, it does not mean we're not doing it, because it's not a competitive bid process. Okay, so.
I have 2, what timing wise, when is this, when do you anticipate this happening?
I think they're wanting to get that done before the heating season.
Yeah.
So soon.
Oh, okay. And then it's addressed to Bob Koss?
Oh.
Yeah.
No, Brian. Yeah, we call him Bob sometimes. Or maybe we will tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll call
Everybody will call him Bob tomorrow.
What's happening?
Any other comments or questions?
Just like BBVH High School. Did you see that too? That's now.
Yeah.
Roll call.
Mrs. Gaelic,
Yes.
Mrs. Kramer,
Yes.
Mrs. Kwiatkowski.
Yes.
Ms. O'Meara,
Yes.
Mr. Dosen.
Yes, item passes 5-0. Moving on to item 9, treasurer's recommendations. Item A, resolve to accept the utility cost reduction auditorium house lighting replacement agreement and main campus utility cost reduction service agreement addendum as attached. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
So these are 2 agreements that we have with EUS. One of these started originally back in, let's talk about the main campus one first. The main campus utility cost reduction service agreement, that started originally back in 2015. So when Rachel was talking about our energy utility piece of this is very complicated or complex, she is not mistaken. Because we get all these people that call us about electricity costs, and we're like, listen, hold yourself, because ours is just very complicated. It's not that it's bad, it's just that, so this does allow us to basically have primary power on the main campus is what that is for. This is going to extend that agreement, which we currently believe is still in our best interest for at least 5 more years. At the end of that 5 years, I think that you 2 were still here when this agreement went in place. Well, maybe not the first one went in place, but I think you were here when the first one went in place. we will own the equipment. So we own transformers and all of that electrical stuff. We will own that equipment at that time. So the district at that point in 5 years will have to make a determination of whether we have how we're providing service. So if those transformers blow, we don't call First Energy, we call EUS. So when we own the equipment, we've got to work on an exit plan, an exit plan for what we're going to do for service in the next 5 years. But for the next 5 years, we're recommending that gets extended and then we will own the equipment. The other one, which is an end of term agreement with house lighting, is for the middle school and high school auditorium lights that were done. It was an upgrade to LED lights. After we've evaluated it, we met with them. They actually would prefer that we end the agreement, but they were giving us the option to extend. After me, Rachel, and Brian had a conversation and met about it, it does not make sense for us to continue that agreement, and we're just going to end that agreement, which is what this will do.
Comments or questions? Roll call.
Mrs. Gaelick?
Yes.
Mrs. Kramer?
Yes.
Mrs. Kwiatkowski?
Yes.
Ms. O'Meara?
Yes.
Mr. Dosen?
Yes, item passes 5-0. Item C, resolve to approve the engagement letter with LGS for the district's annual gap conversion as submitted. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
So this is just continuing our arrangement and agreement with LGS, Local Government Services, with the Auditor of State's Office to do and convert our books from a cash basis to accrual basis. And they do this every year for us currently. So this is that engagement letter for them.
Comments or questions?
This is year to year, sorry.
Comments or questions? Roll call.
Mrs. Gaelick?
Yes.
Mrs. Kramer?
Yes.
Mrs. Kwiatkowski?
Yes.
Ms. O'Meara?
Yes.
Mr. Dosen?
Yes, item passes 5-0. Item E, resolve to approve the audit engagement letter with Charles E. Harrison Associates as attached. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
So this is we're going to be using Charles E. Harris for the next 5 years to do our financial audit. I'm very excited. I did work with them at my previous district, but to be fair, I did not actually make the picking or the recommendation. The state auditor's office does do this whole process. They did an RFP process to select our independent auditors. There were 5 different firms that applied and were interested, and this is the firm that was selected.
Comments or questions? Roll call.
Mrs. Gaelick?
Yes.
Mrs. Kramer?
Yes.
Mrs. Kwiatkowski?
Yes.
Ms. O'Meara?
Yes.
Mr. Dosen?
Yes, item passes 5-0. Item G, resolve to approve the updated student athletic activity handbook as submitted. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
So this just includes some updates to our activity handbook. We're going to try to continue to do this on a regular basis, maybe not every year, but the district is moving forward with a partnership with Givebacks. So we've included some additional screenshots in this. We've updated just a couple little language things to make it more applicable. We're also going through all of our forms, thanks to the wonderful help of Rachel. But we went through and did screenshots to really dig into some of our monitoring compliance of fundraisers, both in district and out of district, or with our support organizations like PSO and Schools Foundation, all of those organizations we work with. So it's a nice online platform to do that. So we've included some screenshots that we can then share this out with our activity advisors to kind of give them a step-by-step guide on how they should be doing things in compliance with our board policy.
Much needed.
Comments or questions?
Just appreciate that. I think that's much needed for us. So.
Roll
There's a
call.
difference between having it and enforcing it. So there's a lot of work yet to be done.
I know.
It's like a strategic plan, you know, you put all that work into creating it, then you have to follow through with it.
Roll call.
Mrs. Gaelick?
Yes.
Mrs. Kramer?
Yes.
Mrs. Kwiatkowski?
Yes.
Ms. O'Meara?
Yes.
Mr. Dosen?
Yes, item passes 5-0. Moving on to item 10, closing items. Item A, announcements. The next regular meeting of the Board of Education is scheduled for August 20th at 6 p.m. Item B, resolve to adjourn the meeting. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mrs. Gaelick?
Yes.
Mrs. Kramer?
Yes.
Mrs. Kwiatkowski?
Yes.
Ms. O'Meara?
Yes.
Mr. Dosen?
Yes, meeting is adjourned. Happy summer, everyone. Stay cool.
Thank you.